Reads podcast. We're your hosts, Abby
and Leighton, and we are back for another episode where we are going to be doing our updated 5-star reads list.
Woo! It's really long, I'm sure.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know if this is like a weird thing just for the two of us, but I feel like we don't rate that many books 5 stars comparatively to other people.
No, not at all. In fact, actually, this is probably something we probably should start off of is in like a few sentences or however, like describe how you, like what makes a book 5 stars for you in the briefest way possible.
Oh my gosh, wait. Oh, it's a loaded question.
Wait, do you want me to go first?
Yes, I want you to go first.
Because for me, there are certain aspects that go into 5 stars. It depends on what the genre is. Like, if it's a romance or a fantasy, if it's like adult fantasy and YA fantasy, sometimes that can range too.
Mm-hmm.
There's just certain things that make it 5 stars. If I don't get bored, okay, number
Agreed.
1. If I don't predict it, because
Mm.
I tend to predict things pretty easily. And also, like, I have to care about the characters and I have to care about the story. Because if I don't care about either of those things, then you're not doing something right.
Yes.
It's not quite there. And I have to like all of it. Like, there can't just be like one part that I'm like, yes, it was a 5-star read. I didn't really like the ending, but it was a 5. Like, no. Like, you liked all of it. There's no part that you're like, no, I did not like that part, but I liked the rest of it, so it's a 5 stars. I'm like, no.
Yes.
Like, I feel like that's how, in my head, that's how I define a 5-star.
Okay, agreed. I think maybe my top 3 things or top 2 things is very first is characters. Like you said, I have to be very invested in your character, your character arc, what is going to happen to you, because I read books all the time where like the main character, not to this extreme usually, but for the sake of example, we will, like, if you die or if you don't die, honestly, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Because, no, it's like, I don't care. A minor inconvenience happens to you, and I'm inconvenienced myself by it.
No, truly.
Right? And then the next one I agree is totally pacing. I'm a big pacing person.
Yeah.
Especially because I don't have a lot of patience, and especially when it comes to fantasy books and, like, committing to that world building and learning all of that. Like, there's got to be something that's got to keep pacing going, because if I have like 50 to 100 pages where I'm not really into it, I most of the time will drop it off.
Yeah.
And not finish the book.
Oh, for sure. And also, like, with fantasy too, specifically for a 5-star read for me, I have to be able to imagine the world. I am a person, apparently this is not a thing for everyone, but like, I picture them like movies in my head when I read. So if I can't picture your world, like, it's not going to be a 5-star read immediately, because it's not descriptive enough for me to like, or I don't care enough to like really build the world out in my head. So that's also like another, I feel like, key factor into it. So in moral of the story, we're pretty hard on books.
Pretty picky.
Pretty picky.
Yes.
I have a lot of 4 and 4.5 stars, but very few 5 stars.
I would say like the majority of what I read falls between 2.5 stars and 3.5 stars.
Oh, I'm a chronic 3 or 3.5 star giver.
Yes, because in my head, like, 3 stars is like, I'm not gonna remember this later. Like, it was good, it was fine, I didn't really care for it. If you ask me 3 months' time, I'm not gonna recall much for it. And like 4 stars is like a hard, like, yes, I really liked that book. And so as soon as you cross into like 4.25 plus, it's like, no, I really like this book. I'm gonna be recommending it to people and things like that.
Yeah.
Which is hard for me to say. Most of the time I'm like, no, it was like a 3, maybe a 3.5.
Well, I also have this too, and you'll kind of see this today, is sometimes I also don't think there's anything wrong with changing your 5-star list. Because there'll be times where I'll read a book and I'll be like, 5 stars. Like, that was amazing. And then it's kind of the same thing where like a month goes by and I'm like, I remember nothing from that book. And so there's just like a lot of things like that too, where I'm like, yeah, that was a 5-star at one point, but like, not really, because if it was a 5-star read, I would remember parts of the book, and then I'm like, I can't remember the character's name. So, regardless, let's just jump right into it, shall we?
Yes.
Where do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Go.
Okay, my very first one, and these aren't in any specific order, really. They're kind of moving in from, like, when I got into reading to like what I'm reading now, but not super specific. But my first ever 5-star read, and I'm going to give you a specific book, but I'm also going to say this like series as a whole is a 5-star, even if not every single book is a 5-star, is Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman.
Oh, yes.
Which is the second book in the Arc of a Scythe series. And it is a like sci-fi dystopian book. And this was one of the very first books I ever picked up when I got into reading. It was a recommendation from my brother-in-law, and I really thought it wasn't going to be my speed because, to be honest, Neil Shusterman, his forte is not writing romance.
Yeah.
Like, there is a romance in it. Honestly, I wish the romance was just not there. That is the one part of the book that it's like, it's not bad. It's just not necessary. He adds it in to try and add, like, some emotional tension, but I feel like the emotional tension is already there and it's not needed. But the main thing for this is, for the series as a whole, is you can tell Neil Shusterman is somebody who outlines his books in entirety before he even starts book one.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, like, he knows exactly what's going to happen. I remember there's kind of a subplot in Scythe, the first book, that I wasn't, like, super into right away. And then there is a full circle moment at the end of Thunderhead that I literally, jaw on the floor, was rendered speechless for probably 10 minutes. Had no idea how he came up with that. And it just, everything, it's like gears in my head, like, turned and clicked, and everything just made sense. It's
That's
like,
so cool.
That's I see why he's been alluding to this for so long. And then I think the last book, it's not everyone's favorite, but I really thought it was a brilliant end to, like, wrapping up the trilogy. So, and it's a favorite of mine because people like my brother-in-laws or my dad or things like that, it's a book I can recommend to them because it's not like a super romantic-y or romance-heavy book, and they still like it. And so,
no, I love it.
Love it.
Okay, my first one, and this has always been on my 5-star list. It's kind of like my first 5 stars before I even knew what 5 stars even was.
Yes.
And that is the one from the selection series. Again, I will say, I also want to note that 5-star series are different than 5-star books. I have a lot of series that I would say are 5 stars, even if none of them are 5 stars. So, but the one in the selection specifically, I just still to this day think about scenes from that book over and over again. And I could reread that book over and over again and love it every single time. And I know that's an unpopular opinion because some people don't like the America, which is like the main girl character, and find her annoying, but I eat it up every time. I love it. And I will, that book will forever and always be on my 5-star list. It will never change. I love it.
Okay, I just saying that now made me add something because I said characters, like being invested in characters and pacing, and then the last one for me is just enjoyment level.
True.
Because I want to be transported and have a good time and not feel like I am reading a book but having like an out-of-body experience with it. And there's some books on here that, objectively speaking, they're not perfect.
Yeah,
but like fair. They did such a good job and I had such a fun time reading them, and I'm constantly thinking about them after finishing the book. Like, it's just like branded into my brain to a certain extent.
Well, and I don't even know how to explain it because it is true that like so many books for me, like, there are just certain scenes that stick in my head.
Yes.
Which that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen with every book. Like, it is true. Like, the books that I love are the ones that I remember scenes from. When I remember, like the feelings and everything, and I just think about it, and I'm like, I just can't believe that happened. Like, it's just, it's constant repeat in my head, and I'm like, that's how you know. That's how you know a book was worthy of 5 stars, you know?
Yes, so I do have a few on there, or on my list that I look at, and I'm like, yes, just the enjoyment factor was so out of this world that I couldn't not put them on here. True. But my next one is going to be probably my most obvious one because it is, and I feel like Abby had a recent revelation that maybe she's going to disagree with me on this now, which is Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas. I remember you posting a TikTok video being
I kept it at 5 stars. It's still a 5-star read for me.
Still 5 stars?
Yeah, it's still 5 stars.
Yes, for me, the Throne of Glass series is another 5-star series for me, and I just feel like Empire of Storms is like the epitome and the culmination of like everything that book has entails, and it's such a build up, and it feels like you finally get to like a climax of sorts at Empire of Storms, where it's like,
so good.
You know, our main FMC is just out of this world, crazy,
so good,
and such a baddie, and that's just like one of my favorite tropes in general. And it just feels like now she has the momentum to go through to the end of the battle, and the end of that book too, like heart in pieces, literally crying, was so unwell that I had to Google to see if I could skip Tower of Dawn. But don't, because Tower of Dawn is one of my favorite books in that series too. But
no, I agree. The reason why I kept it is kind of back to the same thing where it's like I think about scenes from Empire of Storms all the time, and I'm like,
yes,
how can I not? Like, it's so iconic and it's so good. Wait, what do you want to just like say your other like? Do you have any other Sarah J. Maas books on your list?
Not
That's
one.
your only one.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say mine because I have Empire of Storms. This is a recent edition. Is Heir of Fire. Listen,
I love Heir of Fire.
I love Heir of Fire, and I was not about the witches in the beginning of reading this series. Okay, not about the witches. But now, I love the witches, and I love the witches chapters. Like, and it's just structurally speaking, I think Heir of Fire is so good. And I just love the training arc.
I was gonna say, like, literally one of my favorite tropes is, like, a training arc of sorts, and her training arc in that is, like, literally from, like, ground zero to complete baddie to,
And the character arc and just all of it, just so good. And then this might come as a surprise to some people. I can't remember if this was on my list last time or not. But my last Sarah J. Maas book is Crescent City 1.
Oh, okay.
I love Crescent City 1. Again, unpopular opinion. I know, a lot of people don't like the Crescent City books. But relatively speaking, structurally and everything, it's perfect to me.
Yeah, the first one, I feel like the reason people have such a polarizing opinion of Crescent City is because the first one had so much promise and potential.
Yes.
And then it just didn't quite go where we were wanting it to go.
And, like... And again, it has to be for me, like, I have to enjoy every part of it, and I truly do feel like Crescent City 1, I enjoyed every part of it. The romance didn't bother me. I didn't find it unbearable like it is in the rest of the book series. Like, I love the world. I think it was really unique. Like, I don't know. And then, like, the twists and stuff at the end, like, all of it, I just was like, I love it. I love it so much. I thought it was so good. I like other aspects of the rest of the series, but the first one, I re-listened to that audio, like, multiple times a year. I think it's so good. It's like a comfort listen to me.
See, with Sarah J. Maas, I would say like almost the entire Throne of Glass series is gonna be like 4+ stars for me.
Yeah, same.
And then barring the first book, ACOTAR, the rest of that series is probably gonna be similar, maybe in that like 4-star range.
Yeah.
And then same with Crescent City, but not the last 2 books. Sorry, of Crescent City. Not gonna happen.
Honestly, I would say that most of them are still 4 stars or above. Definitely. But
I would disagree with that, but
yeah, that's probably true. But anyways,
we like the same ones, so
we like the same ones. That's all that matters. Okay, what's your next one?
Okay, my next one is another one that kind of took me by surprise, which is Unravel Me by Tahereh Mafi, because I know usually if people have a 5-star book of the Shatter Me series, it's usually Ignite Me, which is the 3rd book in the series, which I agree. I really like that book, but Unravel Me has all the like emotional tension of like they're not together yet, but they're like
enemies, but like
still enemies, but they're also like kind of seeing the other one in each other, and so they're all of a sudden kind of relating and being like, wait, maybe we kind of make sense together, but I can't be with him. That she writes that tension beautifully, as well as Tahereh Mafi has become one of my favorite authors when it comes to like this simplistic but yet still meaningful writing. Like, she's not overly flowery, but she has an ability to like convey emotion and her thoughts in like a single sentence. That like really just rings true in my heart and stabs me.
She has like the one-liner, like just hits you deep in the soul lines, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, and I don't know how she just has like a great sense of like framing and building up tension, so then that one-liner just like really cuts deep. Things like that. And the first time that I read the series, I read it hard copy, and then I read it Kindle, and then I did audiobook. And when I did audiobook, I slowed it down a little bit, and I feel like I really got the full grasp of like what she was trying to do. And that was a game changer. That's when I read Unravel Me, and I was like, holy crap, this book is so good.
No, and truly that book series is very good. I think I took this off my 5-star list, but Restore Me is the 4th one, and for forever it was on my 5-star list just because the twist at the end, literally nothing will baffle me more.
Really?
I think that was like the first time I've ever like been like truly bamboozled by a end of a book series, like end of a book before. It just was so good. Now I read it though again, and I'm like, oh, it's not that great, but like at the time in high school, it was fantastic.
Yeah, I never read the fourth one. I only read the first three a couple times.
It's so sad because the fourth one's so good, and then the fifth and sixth one are just tragic. So it's not even worth it.
Yeah. So.
Okay, love, and then where should I go from here? I'll stick with the YA fantasy vibes, because I still have a couple. On my list, I added Scarlet from the Lunar Chronicles. Guys, listen, that book was a banger. An absolute banger. It's so good. And the world is so good. And yeah, like scenes like the freaking kissing and transporting the key to like
it turns me into such a little girly girl. I'm like, oh my gosh.
And the romance, the tension, and just all of it. I cannot. I loved it so much.
I love that you still love it. I haven't read, or I read the first three. I never got around to Winter, but I liked the first three when I read them.
You should read them. They're very good. I love them. What's your next one?
Okay. I'm gonna do two at a time because I have two dark romance books, and you're gonna be surprised. Well, you're not gonna be surprised, but like for me, it's kind of surprising to get a dark romance book on a 5-star list because I feel like a lot of the times they just don't have like the emotional depth to have that 5-star element to them. But these two books specifically, I feel like the reasons that they made it on there is the emotional arc of the two main characters coming together, which sounds weird when packaged in a dark romance book.
Yeah.
But it is Kill Switch by Penelope Douglas, which is the third book in the Devil's Night series. Wow, I have not read a dark romance book, to be honest, in like over a year, so I'm a little thrown. Well, besides rereading these two, but yeah. And then the other one is God of Fury, which is by Rena Kent, which is the 5th book in the Legacy of God series. But when I say this, trust me, if you're deterred by dark romance, buckle up because they are dark romance. But the emotional arc is so good, and check your trigger warnings for both of them because when I say emotional, like you are going through the trenches. Yeah. For both of them, but I kid you not, like not shed a tear, like constant stream down my face every single time I read both of these. Even on rereads, I know what's gonna happen, and I'm still crying like a baby.
No, I love it though. I love a good book. That is something that will also get me. If you get me to cry in a book, you're gonna be high up there. Yeah. Because I don't know. I'm starting to get more emotional in my old age, but
me too.
I used to be so heartless, and now I cry over everything. Maybe
oh my gosh, hormones. I think I'm a sympathetic crier now because literally I was watching Beast Games on Prime the other night, and I cried in it because I felt so bad that they lost. I'm like, this is so embarrassing.
Because, for example, in my next one is Powerful by Lauren Roberts, which I know you don't like this. And I feel like I don't like that book. It's a novella, so I don't even know if you can really count it as a book. But truly, I just don't think I've ever been so unwell in a book ever in my life. And I loved it. Therefore, it's a 5-star read for me because I could not stop crying.
Okay, see, that's like another thing that I feel like makes it not a 5-star read for me is when they package it as like, oh, this is gonna break your heart, and then I read it and I'm just emotionally stunted the entire time where I don't cry. And I feel like that's how Powerful was for me because everybody told me I was gonna cry.
Yeah, so you're like expecting it almost.
Yeah, and then when I didn't, I was like, oh, that did not hit as hard.
Or you're just heartless, but it's fine.
But I cried in Beast Games. Obviously, my heart is too large.
Okay, what's your next one?
Okay, my next two are The Right Move and Play Along by Liz Tom Ford. 2 5-star books in this series. Once again, 5-star series for me because I know some people don't like Mile High, and to that I say have better taste because I also cried in that book. At the end, when something happens and it's like a celebration, I was so happy for the main male character that I started to cry, which is embarrassing. Anyways, sports romance. I don't know what Liz Tom Ford does, but for me, the main thing is just characters in her book. I love the characters, and similar to like the Chestnut Spring series, has such a great found family in it that reading interconnected standalones is so fun to see the other characters reappear. And then when you're on book number 4 and you already know all the characters, you're like, I literally can't do this. Play Along was so good, and specifically, there's a scene between brothers, because there's Caught Up, which follows Kai, which is the third book in the series, and then Play Along, which is the fourth book, which follows his little brother Isaiah. There's a scene between the two of them where Kai gives a speech. Once again, weeping!
That is true. That is fair. So fair.
And if you listen to the audiobook version of it, I literally saw it on TikTok the other day and started to cry just listening to the audiobook. Like the, I don't know, 1.5 minute clip.
You heard it and it's like triggering for you. You're like...
Yes, it was so bad. But yes, if
That's
you
awesome.
want a sports romance book to read, definitely would recommend. One of my top recommendations would be the Windy City series as a whole.
Oh, it's so good. I wish more people read it because it's so good.
I never read books that are like quote unquote underground. Like I am a slave to like
the trends.
Yeah, you know, you recommend me a book that's so popular, I'm gonna read it. So when I tell people this book series and they're like, oh yeah, I haven't read that or I haven't heard of that, I'm like, what in tarnation's name?
No, truly. Okay, my next one, I'm just gonna say these 3 rapid fire because they're all by the same author. So we have Heartless from the Chestnut Spring series, Reckless from the Chestnut Spring series, and Wild Eyes from the Rose Hill series. Now these ones might be iffy, but again, I do feel like my giving of 5 stars when it comes to romance is a little bit more lenient than fantasy.
Agreed.
There's less expectations in a romance book, I feel like, and these ones are just hit all the expectations that come into a romance book for me. So I have those 3.
Okay, the funny thing is I used to have Heartless, and I think I took Heartless off my 5-star read,
which is fair.
Just for a 4.75. And same thing for Wild Eyes, just because I've only read Wild Eyes once. And
yeah, I feel like I do need to give them a good reread. I definitely do.
Almost every single book on here I have read a minimum of at least 3 times, so I know they're like tried and true. Like, yes, this is gonna be a 5-star always. No, so true. Maybe I'll have to revisit that when I do a reread.
No, but I would say out of all my 5 stars, those 3 are definitely my biggest maybes. Maybe 5 stars, but I just again I haven't reread them again, so I'm I could see them changing. But for now, I was like, I'll be generous.
Romance books are always surprising too, because I feel like, because I'm not as maybe invested in them because they're not like a trilogy or a 5-book series or things like that. I always am the first to remove them off my 5-star list. But then I reread them and I'm always shocked about how good they are.
No, truly.
I'm like, wait, oh my gosh. Okay.
What's
anyways,
your next one?
My next one, I feel like I've talked about Brandon Sanderson literally every episode for the last 5 episodes, so I'll keep it short. But Words of Radiance, which is the second book in the Way of Kings series by Brandon Sanderson, just a big genre change for me, because I'm not an epic fantasy person, as well as I am a heavy romance lover, and this has a romance subplot, and by subplot I mean subplot. So me liking a book specifically for the world building and the plotting and not for the romance is a big change of pace for me, but I'm here for it. And it was phenomenal. It's over 1,000 pages. I think I read it in 2 days. It was crazy. I did do audiobooks, so...
But still, though, that's literally insane.
Yes. And it was, I'm not going to go into it too much because I feel like as soon as I start talking about characters, I'm going to start spoiling things. But there is a character named Kaladin and there is a character named Shallan, which are 2 of your main characters. And oh my gosh, I am obsessed with both of them. I am a diehard fan. My brother-in-law has joked about how he wants to name one of his kids Kaladin.
No, I love the name Kaladin
and
so
I
much.
Finally approve. I'm like, yes, I love this man.
I love that name so much. So random, but I love that for you. That is still so baffling to me that you read them, but it's encouraging me to read them. I'm like, you've read them, I can do it too.
I know. I just finished the 3rd one a little bit earlier, so I'm now slowly making my way through the Way of Kings series, but yes, definitely worth it.
I love it. Okay, my last romance book on my 5-star list is a new one, and it is The Things We Leave Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros. Guys, it is just so well plotted. It is hard to find romance books that have good plots and an actual plot twist. And this one got me. And I think about it almost daily. It's so good. I don't know how the book was not more popular before she blew up from Fourth Wing. I know she obviously was successful because she's written so many books prior to Fourth Wing, but none of them I feel like had the success they did until she wrote Fourth Wing, and I literally don't know how because it's so good.
See, yeah, I haven't read a lot of Rebecca Yarros romance, which I feel like I need to dive into.
I've read all of them. They're so good.
Abby's been like die hard the past couple months, like binging all of them.
Yes, and there's another one too that I would maybe consider 5 stars, but I feel like I need to give it another reread before I. Yeah, you know, but still so good.
Okay, speaking of Rebecca Yarros, and I hate to be this person, I am this person, and I hate myself for it because it's gonna be Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. You guys, you should have seen Abby's face just now because I was a certified Iron Flame hater. Like, not like terrible, but it was probably 3.5 stars for me. Like, it was not it for me.
Yeah, no, not at all.
And I was very vocal about that. But I recently did my reread in preparation of Onyx Storm, and what I love about Rebecca Yarros books is the ability to read it and then go back and like dissect it and figure out, okay, what's going to happen in the next book? Oh my gosh, she was totally alluding to this in the first place. What, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really enjoy that aspect of reading, and I feel like Iron Flame is just like a treasure trove of like all this information that was going to lead up to Onyx Storm. So I was dissecting it like page by page, and I had this epiphany where I was like, wait a minute, is this kind of good? And then once I had the epiphany, I couldn't shake it. It was like my brain had been scratched, and I was like, crap, I think I've been trashing on this book for like a year, and it's actually really good.
It is very good. I would say it's a 4.5 for sure. I thought you were gonna say Fourth Wing, so it just caught me off guard for a second when you said Iron Flame.
I was gonna say Fourth Wing, but something about like having the backstory for Fourth Wing and then going into Iron Flame and adding on to that, it's just
because Fourth Wing is on my list. I think Fourth Wing is a 5 star, but I would say Iron Flame is like a 4.5. Onyx Storm is not, but yeah.
Yeah, I've only done one. No, I was gonna say I only read Onyx Storm once. I read Onyx Storm and then I reread it immediately after. That's crazy behavior.
That is crazy behavior. I gotta give myself like a 6-month like sitting space with the books for a little bit before I do a reread of them.
Yeah, I don't know what crack cocaine I was on. That was bad decision making because I didn't like it anymore the second time. It wasn't bad. I would say Onyx Storm is like what, like a 3.75. So maybe circle back in a year and it'll be 5 stars.
Yeah, maybe you'll get there.
We'll see.
Okay, wait, how many do you have left?
Like 4.
Okay, then I'll just do them one at a time then, because I have 3. Okay, my next one is a YA fantasy, and it is the Ballad of Never After from the Once Upon a Broken Heart series.
Shook.
It's so good.
Not my favorite book.
And I love the ending. The series as a whole, tragic. And the last book, never read a worse book. But the middle one, I love it.
Yeah, I DNF'd the last book.
Oh, it's not so bad. But the middle one?
I will say, for me, Ballad of the Never After was my favorite of the 3.
Oh, it's definitely the best. If you don't like, if it's not a 5-star read for you, it's probably still your favorite one. I don't like her style of writing, and I don't particularly like her books. But that one in particular, literally crack cocaine. I loved every minute of it. Oh, I don't know why.
Okay. My other one is gonna be a funny story by Emily Henry. I thought about putting Beach Read on here, but I've talked about it in a previous episode where like Beach Read is my first Emily Henry love. I don't know if it's my ultimate Emily Henry love, but I can't shake it because it was my first love. But so keep that in mind. Maybe like Baby Asterix, Beach Read, we'll see. But Funny Story was like when I read Emily Henry and I realized I was super into her writing style because she takes similar to how we talked about Abby Jimenez, where it's like relatively mundane people and creates this really interesting dynamic and story without going to the lengths of an Anna Huang where they're billionaires and they're in gangs and they're in the mafia and they're shooting people and you're like, what the frick is happening here? Like, it's relatively mundane people that are like, oh yeah, my significant other cheated on me and now we're gonna, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like normal things.
Yeah, not like fake dating is normal but you know what I mean. Like, not crazy. But I really wasn't into that genre for a very long time. I needed the, like, telenovela next level extraness for me to enjoy a book. And I feel like this was one of the first books that I read that I was like, wait, this could be me. I mean, not really, because I'm happily married, but, like, you know what I mean?
You're like, I could actually live in this type of situation.
Yeah. Anyways, it was just, like, once again, genre change for me, because that is not what I was used to.
No, I need to add that to my list of books I need to read, Emily Henry. I will get there. I will.
I'm interested to see what Abby thinks about Emily Henry, because you're not a huge Abby Jimenez fan, and in my head, those two are somewhat similar.
Except for, okay, to be fair, it's not the style of writing of Abby Jimenez's books that I don't like. I've always had a problem with the characters. I don't like the characters she writes. Well, most of them. I just find them to be unbearable, and I hate reading about them. Therefore, I don't like her books. But it's not a style of writing thing. So,
well, that's good at least.
So, okay. My next one is the third book in the Prison Healer series, The Blood Trader. Listen, again, if you can get me with a plot twist, you're probably going to be at least a 4 stars, probably a 4.5, and this one just got me, okay? It was a shocker, to say the very least, and listen, I know, I understand that YA fantasy is not for everyone, okay? I understand. However, if there was just, like, any YA fantasy book that I could, like, get people to read, it would be this one. I talk about The Prison Healer so much on TikTok, all I want in this world is for people to read it, okay? No one does, and I just want people to read it, and then all of a sudden I'll be, like, scrolling through TikTok, and I'll see videos and be like, I picked up this book and it was so good. And I'm like, I told you. I said that multiple times.
I've been knowing
this whole time. I've been knowing. And no one talks about it. And the third one, so good. It's so good. Especially for a YA, because I feel like a lot of times the last book in a series, to be honest, it's usually not very good. It's hard to do a last book in a series good.
Yes,
okay?
That's true.
So I loved it.
Okay, my next one, no surprise to anyone, because, once again, certified Allie Hazelwood lover now, which is Checkmate by Allie Hazelwood. I recently did my 3rd reread earlier this year of this book, and every time I am befuddled. I pick it up expecting it to be good, but not expecting it to be great. I always pick it up as like a palate cleanser to be like, oh, I can read this in 24 hours or less, no big deal. Read it, and I'm invested. Also, I love that she's overly niche, like chess romance. Tell me one other chess romance book. Yeah, you can't. They don't exist.
It doesn't exist.
And you can tell she is so educated in the topics that she chooses. Like with chess, she talks about all these openings and escapes. And like, once again, do I know what she's talking about? No. Could she be making it up? Absolutely. But I love it. And I'm invested. And it's a YA book. There's no spice. It's closed door. Which, once again, changed pace for me because I usually read spicy books. I read new adult spice, whatever. Yeah. And so, just another testament to how good and interesting the characters are, but mostly the plot. I would say it's in this book, it's definitely plot over characters, just because I think it's so unique.
Yeah, but I love that. Okay, my last one is also my last new edition, which is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I loved it.
5 stars.
5 stars.
Wow.
I ate it up. Now, again, I'm listening to it on audio, so I feel like, again, my experience with audio is very different compared to when I'm reading it. But I loved it, and I could not stop listening to it, and that's never happened to me before. And I was like, I have to be listening to it at all times of all day because I need to finish this. And I loved it. So, and especially just because that's out of all the Harry Potter books, it's been my favorite so far. So, anyways, 5 stars. That was the last one.
Okay, I technically have 3 more, but I'll do rapid fire.
Yeah, do rapid fire.
One is Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare, which is the first book in the Dark Artifices series. And I think a lot of this is, I was a diehard Cassandra Clare person. And then when you have all the backstory of the Mortal Instruments, and I had read the Infernal Devices, which is her other series, and then I went into this series, it's like, I'm 20 books deep in this series. How is it not going to be 5 stars for me? Because obviously I'm liking it if I'm still there. Anyways, and then my other one is Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. I would say I don't read like a ton of, I don't want to say overly emotional, but this is like real life. There's a lot of domestic abuse, and
it's like a deep romance. Like,
yes,
there's a dark romance, there's a fluffy romance, and then there's deep romance, and that's what I would say it is.
And like I was in physical pain the entire time I was reading this. Like it was so painful that I had to continuously listen to it so I could just like get through it to get to the happy ending because I was distraught. I think I was terrible and mean to every person I ran into the entire duration I was reading that book. But
it made you feel kind of ill.
Yes,
while you're reading it.
Pulled my heart out, stomped on it a bunch, finally brought it back to one piece after like 25 hours, whatever.
Yeah.
But yes, one of the only times that that's ever happened to me where I was like, wow, I just have to get through this. And then my last one is, I didn't pick a specific book, but I guess if I had to pick a specific book, it would be The Takeover. But the Miles High series, and part of this is probably just shock value because I was not expecting it to be that good. Like, I was expecting it to maybe be a 3.25 star.
Yeah.
Like, generous 3.5 star. And I was so invested with the brothers and their relationships and the families of the people that they were dating. And once again, interconnected standalones, huge found family.
Yeah.
Well, real family.
But
yeah,
like
not found
family too, I guess.
But every time, and now whenever I like need a palate cleanser or something, I will pick up all 4 of those books, read them in 4 days, and love every single one of them.
I need to finish reading the rest of them. The Takeover would have made it onto my list. It's a 4.5. I just hate the ending. I hate the last literally 2 chapters of the book, which I know is probably not fair of me to do, but I just hate the ending of it. So therefore, it cannot be 5 stars. But other than those last 2 chapters, I love it. Yeah. It's so good.
I feel like you would really like The Do-Over, which is the 4th one. But
I'll get there. The books are just really long. Therefore, I haven't really tackled them.
What, 500 pages maybe?
Yeah.
Something a little longer.
They're kind of big. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode. We hope you guys enjoyed. Also hope that kind of gave you some good ideas of books to read. They are certified Leighton and Abi approved. So, thank you guys so much. Make sure you guys follow us on all of our social media. It's just Allie Reads Podcast. And have a good week. Read some books. And we'll see you all next week. Bye!
That was not
It never is.